Hello, everybody, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to those also not here on the Zoom live, but not dead either, but catching up on YouTube. So today is the 17th, we're really clocking them up, our 17th session on this text. So let's start it with a very special moment of motivation and turning our hearts, our thoughts, everything we are in great love towards everybody, and trying to let our mind expand and expand to try and encompass what everybody means. Everybody's lots of bodies. Humans, animals, spirits. It's endless in its diversity, endless in its extent, and very much relevant to today's topic, teaching, actually, that we are everybody. At the stage of ego absorption we're in, it's already a lot to think of. I am here for everybody. We didn't quite reach the stage of I am everybody yet, but it will come, and that will be interesting. So for the moment, we make the effort to get out of our own bubble, our own preoccupations, our life, our karma, which is all-absorbing, and we try to get a bigger perspective, many lifetimes, hundreds of lifetimes, your journey, when it's stripped off of all these karmic complications, this body, this life, these friends, this family, and so on. Your journey to enlightenment, we refocus on that wonderful potential we have and that we are liberating, and also the need and the wonder and the beauty of being able to move more and more towards a life of service for everyone, to be really useful, really helpful, more and more to everyone. So that's embodied in our prayers. We take refuge in the Buddha, in the Dharma, and in the community of most noble minds. From this moment on, until we reach the very heart of enlightenment, through the practice of generosity and all 6 transcendent virtues, may we reach total awakening and every enlightened quality, to be able to truly help sentient beings who are so lost in samsara. May each and every being be well. May they live long and be healthy, be well provided for, have good friends, find respect. May they live in places of peace, places of plenty, and most of all, may they practice Dharma. May they each create the causes for these good circumstances to be their wealth in future lives. May they be free from suffering and from creating causes of future suffering. May they discover the natural, sacred well-being totally beyond suffering and attain great equanimity, free of closeness, distance from anyone. Deyata shame shamawati shameta sharchu amkure mare jite karote keyore tejuvati oloyane Vishuddha male malapa naye kukure kaka grasana umuke paramuke amuke shamme davane sawa graha bandhanane Nigrihitva Savapava Pravadina Vimukta Marapasha Savitva Buddha Mudra Anudkatita Savamare Putsarita Parishuddhe Beka Shantu Savamara Kama. Glorious Guru, source of all blessing, ever present above our head on lotus and moon seat, through your immense kindness, ever sustain us, that the accomplishments of body, speech, and mind flow from you, and we are one. So let's zoom in. This week there are the teachings given by the Buddha, the sutras, and there are the shastras, which are the great works by later masters which explain the Buddha's teachings, develop them, present them in an organized way. We are studying this shastra from the 4th century, 5th century master Asanga, which is the great shastra on the topic of the quintessentially enlightened nature of our being, of our mind, that we call Buddha nature. This text itself is in 3 main parts. There is the good beginning, good middle, good end. Good beginning is the title and the homage, and the good end is the dedication. The good middle, which is most of it, is in 2 major sections: the goal to be achieved and the cause for that achievement. The goal to be achieved is presented through 3 chapters, 3 Vajra points: Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. That's what we want to achieve. And the last 4 Vajra abodes, or 4 chapters, are the cause for achieving that: our own Buddha nature, and then enlightenment of others, enlightened qualities, and enlightened activity. Of these 7 Vajra abodes, we are in the 4th, which is the chapter on Buddha nature. The chapter on Buddha nature itself is in 3 parts. First, the 3 great statements: all beings have it the same. And third, this gives us a potential, those 3 key statements. And then 10 detailed explorations, that's where we are just now. And then afterwards 9 examples to illustrate Buddha nature. So in the 10 detailed explanations, we're in the 9th one, which is about the changelessness. Now, in this particular section, which is a bit longer than some of the other ones of the 10, the language tends to be more precise. So sometimes in our mind, we make equivalences between things. And here we're looking at changelessness, which is not the same as permanence or other things which in our mind sort of resonate the same. This is exactly what it says. Buddha nature doesn't change. It's the changeless nature. It's very famous. And then we're seeing that in the light of the earlier sections of these 10 explorations, where we saw that there are 3 main phases in our journey to enlightenment. The impure phase, where we are reborn in samsara. We have one existence in one place. We are a sentient being. That's the impure phase. There's the phase which is both pure and impure, when alongside our karmic baggage, we have clear, authentic realization of Buddha nature. So that's both pure and impure. And then there's the totally pure phase, which is the timeless, changeless Buddha mind itself, when we become enlightened. So we're looking how Buddha nature is changeless in those 3 phases. And we were looking until last week into the impure phase. So that is when we are still locked up in our stream of consciousness. We don't yet have we don't have any direct realization of Buddha nature. So it's something we hear about, it's something we are learning about, it's something we are meditating on to discover. It's a mystery. We looked in that phase, and how whichever level of mystery we're in, however deeply we are pickled in our own samsara and our karma, Buddha nature is there constantly. So we went through a lot of exploration about space and the elements, and how the four elements, earth, water, fire, wind, how they're changing all the time, sometimes more, sometimes less, triggering each other, interacting. There's the whole play of interdependence going on. Space remains constant, changeless, which is the main thing. And we're invited, and it's very, very useful, to really think about space, material. You can't call space material, can you? But you know what I mean. In the material world, what space is. It's mind-blowing. I don't know if any of you have done it. Did any of you get mind blown? If not, you need to explore space more. It really is. I mean, it's not just for us, physicists and so on. Time and space, even in these days of advanced physics, is causing a lot of head scratching. Because by definition, space is nothing. That's what space means. It's not something that's space. It means nothing. Nothing. Nothing's there, so we call that space. Nothing at all. But then space allows all the other things, the four elements, to work. So if we go around exploring space, exploring Buddha nature is difficult for us. We didn't get there yet, most of us, in meditation. That's very difficult. But space, as we know it, is available to explore. And especially these days, we know how vast it is. So anyway, I'm not going back to it, otherwise that's 5-10 minutes lost repeating. I hope you get to the point where your mind explodes through exploring space, because then space as an example works as an example. We take an example to help us. If we don't understand the example, we don't get the help. You can understand the words, they make a kind of sense that words make, which isn't much sense at all. We need to, like artists do, sculptures, the way they explore space and so on. Anyway, we were looking at the changelessness of Buddha nature in that impure phase, when our mind is totally absorbed in what we saw the list, those 35 things, the 5 aggregates and the 18 elements of consciousness and the 12 perceptual entrances. We, second by second, split second by split second, we are absorbed all the time in those things. So then we moved on in the last session to changelessness in the phase which is both pure and impure. So I'd like to stop there for a moment and help us reflect on something which is a big analogy that we use all the time, which is the Dharma path, and which is very relevant here because we're looking at the 3 phases of the path: impure, pure and impure, totally pure. It works. It's very famous. When we say, what is Dharma, the Buddha's teaching, we say it's a path. It's a path of practice and so on. So it's everywhere in Dharma teachings. But then, where does it work and where doesn't it work? For you, for me. Well, a path, a journey that we take. So, whatever we are, our eyes, our ears, our nose, and so on, we take to different places. But our perceiving mechanism stays pretty much the same. So if we go on a long journey east, for instance, we just take one part, food, okay. You leave the UK, you leave UK bread, you go to France, and then there's baguette. So you, with your same taste buds, you're now in a different experience out there of baguette, not British bread. Then you move on to Germany, you've got pumpernickel, and you've got sort of quite dense, hard bread. Then you carry on and you're in Greece with pita bread, and then you keep going, and then you've got that amazing Afghan bread, the best bread in the world. Oh, if only I could go back there now and get one. And then you move on, and you're in the land of naans and chapatis, and then it starts getting more like rice. Then there's more and more rice, and then there's perfumed rice and sticky, gluey rice, and then different rice. But basically, you're taking your taste buds, and when you get back to the UK, an English bread, then you'll still be you. Your eyes, you'll be seeing different sights, different landscapes. What you're experiencing changes, but you don't change in an ordinary journey, isn't it? I mean, maybe you change a bit, but basically we're talking about what we experience. So this is where the analogy of a journey and a path doesn't work so well, because what we're looking at is the subject, the perceiver, changes through the Dharma journey. That's what it's all about. And that's harder to describe. So that would be like you don't go anywhere, you stay in the same room, but you change, and because you change, the room changes and changes some more till in the end, you're in paradise. Well, that's harder because we don't usually do that. See, we're used to going on out there journeys rather than in here journeys. But we need to understand that to get the point, this 9th point of changelessness. And these 3 phases: impure, where we're totally locked up in our 5 aggregates, which means our senses and our thoughts, our memories, our fantasies, and so on, and the whole way we perceive them through the 12 doors of perception, and with our 18 elements of consciousness. Non-stop, our, whatever we call it, mind, our awareness, is caught up in those things. So we're looking at a journey in this text in the context of the Bodhisattva journey over 3, now they're not just called cosmic eons, I forget the word in Sanskrit, but they're called 3 incalculable cosmic eons. Many lifetimes of very systematic, beautiful, slow evolution, awakening. In this text, in this context of this text, we're not looking at Vajrayana. We're in the Mahayana understanding of the Bodhisattva's journey. Last week I said it's not easy to summarize the 5 stages of that path, because it isn't. There's lots of details, and the different historical schools don't agree. They don't agree. They all say there are 5 stages to the journey, and all the schools, including Theravada school, when they look at Buddha Shakyamuni's journey, and they call him the Bodhisattva, they all agree he went through the 3 cosmic eons. But where there's disagreement is where in that journey he reached a point of no return, where it's impossible to fall back, to revert to samsara. And so that gets very, let's say, complicated, where the point of no return is. In the teachings I'm presenting to you, based on our Kamakaja lineage and Gampopa's expertise, amazing expertise. Gampopa, 10th level bodhisattva, same as the Buddha as far as we're concerned. According to him, we're looking at first bodhisattva level as the point of no return. So in that context, let's quickly see what's behind what I'm presenting to you. So in the first stage of the path, the stage of accumulation, then there is a huge amount of work to be done to totally transform you. Right? It's not a question of a sudden light bulb moment, breakthrough. It is long, laborious, beautiful freeing up. It starts with the 4 foundations of mindfulness, where you become totally aware, unconfused, crystal clear about what you are physically, what it means to be incarnated, what you are emotionally, what it is to have feelings and reactions, what it is to have a mind that thinks, remembers, fantasizes, some mindfulness of mind, and then to be part of an endless interdependent universe, mindfulness of Dharma, or everything. That takes a long time. Then based on that, we have our own baggage, our own karma, our own feelings, our own thoughts, what we are, unique. And we have the next step after the 4 mindfulnesses are the 4 great changes, where anything that is damaging, the mind poisons, the karma, has to be worked on so that it doesn't happen anymore. And then anything that could be damaging, that isn't in you at the moment, we have to be working so that it never comes up. Like pride, for instance. Maybe if you're a miserable, pathetic human being, you don't have much to be proud of. So it's not really your problem. Maybe your problem is lack of self-esteem or something like that. But then the time will come through all your mindfulness, all your knowledge, all your meditation, where you've got something to be proud of. So we need to be ready for pride, feeling better than other people, feeling you know more than them, feeling you've got more experience than they do, or whatever. We need to be ready for pride to come up, and the same for all the other mind poisons. So the 4 great changes: getting rid of the poisons that are there, making sure new poisons don't come up. Third one, whatever good qualities we have, making them better and better. And the fourth one, whatever good qualities we don't have yet, learning them, acquiring them, nurturing them. So these four great changes is an incredible amount of spade work on oneself. We've all seen when we try and change one of our not so good habits, how much work it takes, how long, and how successful or unsuccessful a whole lifetime. Anytime you get to my age and you look back, you think, okay, I started off with that, whatever, desire, that aversion. How far did I get? My goodness, 50 years working on it. This much shift. It really is. So these four great changes, whereby all of the harmful habits that are still there need to go, and so on and so on. That takes many lifetimes. And we're a much cleaner, freer, good, basically good, harmonious, balanced person because of it. And then the third level of this first stage of accumulation is the development of shamatha meditation, so that we've got true, undistracted, one-pointed absorption on deeper and deeper levels. And that brings about miraculous qualities. It brings about a change in our perception, clairvoyance, clairaudience, all sorts of special abilities we didn't have. All of that's the first stage of the path. Over hundreds of lifetimes we're looking at that, where we are getting our mind out of this absorption in those 35 things. On the second of the 5 stages of the path, we're working full-on concentration. Now we have this goodness, this good karma, a lot of merit, we have a lot of clarity and stability. We're working on shunyata, to understand the void nature of things. That particular stage has 4 different levels. We won't look at them today. But by the end of it, then the void nature of everything inside us, around us, is very, very clearly not just understood conceptually, but through the way we've brought our wisdom into our shamatha practice, then it's experienced directly, the void, dreamlike, interdependent nature of everything, so vivid. So then at the end of that second, and after thousands of lifetimes, then maybe hundreds of lifetimes, then there is this breakthrough, this flip over, where Buddha nature is revealed to the mind. And because we've been working so smoothly over so many lifetimes, once it manifests, it's there for good. It's not like we can do now with our special techniques like Mahamudra, where we can get a glimpse. And then another glimpse later, and longer glimpses. We're looking at hundreds, thousands of lifetimes where we reach a point where everything has been so nicely worked on, it can't get you anymore. Samsara has been castrated, disempowered. So that's what we're looking at now when we're looking at these bodhisattva levels. One's reached a point of no return. Buddha nature, wisdom is present all the time, and alongside it, but impotent, is our personal baggage, which is still being worked on, but which can't get us anymore. Our mind is with Buddha. Our mind is at peace inside. Our mind is connected to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And it always will be from that time on. We never lose it. But somewhere in all of that wonderful blessing and space and light. There is your story, your personal story, and then the progress through the bodhisattva levels is the work in getting rid of that personal habits forever. So that's what we're looking at here and in the coming verses. If we go back to what I was saying about a journey and the way we think about it, a journey, we take who we are now and go different places. We're not taking who we are now on the Buddhist journey. We're getting rid of who we are now. That's the big difference. Sometimes I think it's easier to think of that rather than bottom upwards, like starting from here, our journey to enlightenment, looking at it from top down. What are we really? What are we really and truly? Ultimately, absolutely. We are everyone and everything. Everyone and everything is so interconnected. There is no separation. And the good of everyone and everything, basically the, whatever you call it, mind, the universe, reality, is a good reality that cares for everyone and everything. That's what we really are. But that's lost. And so we come down and down, and we are locked up in a me, and that's a suffering, and it's an incredible limitation. It's a tiny, tiny little box of preoccupations. It can be quite wonderful when you die, because all of the worries and the weight you carry in this life, bye-bye. It can be a great relief when you don't have anything to worry about anymore. We'll all go. I mean, for us in life, as humans locked up, then that's quite scary. We're going to lose our loved ones, our body, our place, and everything. But maybe when it happens, it's a huge relief, because there's such a lot to worry about. It's sometimes in the teachings on generosity, it's quite humorous. It said, give it away. As long as you've got it, you've got to look after it, you've got to repair it, you've got to insure it. You're going to be worried every day something's going to go wrong, somebody's going to steal it, you're going to have to buy another one and you've not got enough money. Give it away. What a weight that's gone. You're so much lighter. And then people relationships, you're worried. Are they going to be upset? Are they going to think this about me? What did I say? How did it affect them? Should I have said something else? So much stress all the time. Whew. What I'm trying to show is how we are so locked up in this tight world, and the limitations of that stop our wonderful heart being with everybody, caring for everything and everybody, as is naturally so. So we're looking at the journey of going back to what is naturally good. So we come to these verses on the bodhisattva level. So let's pick up with the text and see how these work. Now, with the first bodhisattva level, that is the time of breakthrough, the time of flip over, when our default nature stops being ego, somebody, somewhere. Our default nature is Buddha mind, as much as it can be experienced on that first bodhisattva level. So the first bodhisattva level can happen very quickly. It could happen in a matter of minutes, and then it's already second bodhisattva level. It could be that you're in first bodhisattva level for a long time, maybe even a cosmic eon. There isn't a definite time span. It depends on everything that's gone before, your own particular case. But the first bodhisattva level is this. It's the best moment ever. Ever. You know, they say you only get to do something for the first time once. It's an interesting saying, that. You only get to do something for the first time once. So when your moment comes, it's actually the first bodhisattva level is called great joy. The fact that you are no longer imprisoned by ego and its worry and its hope and its fear is an amazing liberation. And then all of a sudden your mind is expanded. You're no longer one person in one place. The power of karmic reincarnation has ended. You have this multiple mind. You are in 100 different places at the same time, helping around 100 people, and receiving teachings from 100 different enlightened beings. It's unimaginable for us. So that's the first bodhisattva level. And what happens there also applies to all 10 bodhisattva levels. This thing of Buddha nature that is now there. It's you, it's your experience, it's who you truly are, it's there. That will be changeless. What was there and changeless, but you couldn't experience it, now is there and changeless, and you're experiencing it. That's the main point. So we'll look at that changelessness as we go through the different verses. So So I think last time we got to about verse 68, or so, 68, 69, in general talking about all the bodhisattvas in the 10 bodhisattva levels, since they've seen the truth just as it is. Their compassionate nature shows birth, aging, sickness and death, even though they've transcended birth, aging, sickness and death. So we considered that in the last session. And then verse 69 carried on that idea, but from our side, those blinded by ignorance. So it means blinded by ignorance means we don't have, or beings in the 6 realms don't have direct perception of their own Buddha nature. But even though that's the case, in their own reality, in their own world, as they experience it, through their 5 aggregates and so on, they experience the victor's children, the bodhisattvas that means, who have realized this changeless nature as though they were born and grow up and age and get sick and die. So it said this is indeed a wonder. So then today we move on to verse 70, and verse 70 applies to, so it's on page 136 of the book, and this applies to first bodhisattva level and to all 10 levels. So it says, those who have reached the domain of realization, so at last, after the stage of accumulation, the stage of junction, and all those lifetimes, now they've reached direct realization realization in the sense, the etymological sense of Buddha nature has become real. They have realized, they've made real, what's become real to them is their Buddha nature, their true nature. So they've reached that level, that domain. Now actually when they reach that domain, as you can see in the commentary if you've got it in front of you, it says, as far as they're concerned, they're out. They're not programmed by karma anymore. They're not obliged to be reborn. It's like me. I'm old. Fairly soon I'm going to get reborn. I don't know what my programming is. I wish I did. I'd kind of sneak in there and do something. There's some poor, if it's anything like a human birth in a world like this, there's a lady somewhere who doesn't know it yet, who's going to be my mum. Well, I kind of, if I knew the programming, I'd go and do nice things and prepare the ground, both in my own interest and in hers. And it could be quite a few things you could sort out, like when you go on a journey. You can sort a lot out by telephone and email first, so that when you arrive there, things are how you want them. Unfortunately, karma doesn't give us that possibility. So I don't know what my programming will be, but it's for certain, it's there. It's there. So first bodhisattva level, that's finished. The driving force of karma that's been there since time immemorial, it's over. This is why it's called the joyful level. Woohoo! I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It's such a breakthrough. And it's described in some of the sutras as how happy you are, how wonderful it is. So anyway, having broken through to that level, your own feeling of being, I don't know how to describe it other than that, is not like this. Not a sort of solid meat bones with a brain and aching knees and all the rest of it. You have a body of light. Don't need doctors. It's you have a body of light. You are a being of light. In fact, you're not just one being of light. You are many beings of light. You can have 100 different bodies, presences. The only way we can describe it is light, because there's an experience going on a level of clear mind, so we call it light. That's how you really are. That's how you experience yourself. But you can manifest in the worlds of those who haven't got that experience and tell them about it and help them to do what they need to do to free themselves from their own prisons, their own fetters, their own karma. So, because you know what it's like and they don't, then you are a wonderful teacher. You have teaching powers that worldly teachers don't have. But I've seen this with Buddhist teachers. There are those who are speaking from that place of direct experience and who, because they are there when the circumstances are right, can manifest that. And there are those who are wonderful Dharma teachers, but they're not there yet. So they've got all the blah, blah, blah nicely sorted out, and it's Dharma, and they can really nicely reproduce all the Buddha's teachings, answer your questions, and so on. But they're not there yet in Buddha nature. And So if we look at those 5 stages of the path, many of the people we call lamas, rinpoches and so on, they're in the first or the second of the 5 stages of the path. They are still subject to reincarnation, but they're wonderful, good beings, kind heart, very, very pure in their conduct, in their thought. So many qualities to share that in the Tibetan system they're considered worthy of being refound as reincarnations. But in their core, they haven't stably realized, made real, what all these teachings are leading for. So there is a huge difference. I've met lots of lamas, lots of rinpoches, and this difference is so vivid. Those who are speaking from the enlightened space, they are wonderful teachers. And what they say is just so always spot on, clear. It's not in theory. And I think it's one of the reasons I became a Buddhist. The way my own mind phrases it, because I had a few years of incredibly intense exposure to some amazing people of different faiths and spiritual tendencies in London and traveling and so on. For me, they were very good people with interesting things to say, but they were in the dark talking about the light. And when I got to Dharamsala and met Dalai Lama and other people, all of a sudden, it was amazing. Here are people in the light talking about the light. The difference is just quantum. Huge, huge. So anyway, this verse says, that they've reached that domain and they can appear within our world, and thus the skills and the compassion of these friends for beings are truly excellent. We could unpack that at length. Their skills and their compassion. When they reach first bodhisattva level and you reach the true nature of mind, as we've seen already, has 2 aspects. It's called as-it-isness wisdom, many-ness wisdom. As-it-isness wisdom knows Buddha nature, Buddha mind for what it is. It is that. But it knows that potential is in everyone. So if you are a teacher on this first bodhisattva level, you're teaching somebody, you feel what they have in them, what they will become. It's quite interesting if we come back to what I mentioned earlier on, the different Buddhist schools have different ideas about where you reach the point of non-return. When it comes to the bodhisattva path, when you reach the real definitive point of no return, one thing that will happen is that you will experience a Buddha telling you when you will become Buddha, in which world, what your name will be, how long your teachings will last, how many disciples you will have, very clearly, because now it's assured. There's no chance of falling back, and the momentum is so much there that it's inevitable. Your future is already clearly visible to an enlightened mind. I'm having a smile because I'm remembering one of my, failures of as an interpreter, because I was interpreting for a full-length bodhisattva vow ceremony. And so there was Dumo Chuji Rinpoche on his throne, I'm there sitting next to them on my little translator's seat, and he's leading the ceremony. And then he says to me to stand up. Stand up? Why? What's going on? You sit there, you're the interpreter who kind of disappears and wants to be the invisible kind of conduit between the Lama and the audience. And then he says, now I'm going to prostrate to you. And I think, no, what's going on? This, I don't know about this. And it's a terrible feeling when you don't know what's going on and you're kind of the person helping everybody else understand what's going on. So he had to explain to me the part of the ceremony replicates the time in the future when the Buddha will predict your future Buddhahood and prostrate to you. So the Lama who gives you the vow actually prostrates to all the future Buddhas he's giving the vow to. So, the thought of this great Rinpoche prostrating to a Samiling shrine room full of individuals like me, I didn't get it at first. Of course, once you've got it, it makes sense. So anyway, this thing about the point of no return. It's what we're looking at in this verse. So it means that their compassion, they realize whoever they're talking to is going to become a bodhisattva, a Buddha. They feel the love, the peace, everything that's possible for them, even though they can't feel it themselves. Their compassion, they'd do anything to help that person to awaken a little bit. So it says in this verse, their compassion is so different from before because it's coming naturally from the source. Now verse 71, page 137, even though they've transcended everything worldly, they do not leave the world, acting within the world for the world, but unblemished by worldly purity. So that means what it says. But what are we looking at in this verse? Now we're looking at bodhisattvas in the 2nd to the 7th levels. How do you do this with fingers? Okay. In the first 7 bodhisattva levels, we're looking at levels 2 to 7. Level 1 can go by very quickly. We're looking at 2 to 7, which mainly means looking at 1 to 6, but 6 is over on what's going on in number 7. So in there, level by level, is determined by the perfection of the 6 paramitas. In their order, because they're in a natural order, you have to do the 1 first, generosity, and then when that's brought to perfection, then that leads into the next one, right conduct. So what we're looking at here is the bodhisattvas themselves and the people they're helping, and the interaction between the two, because the bodhisattvas are perfecting their own paramitas through their bodhisattva activity to help others. If you're by yourself, how can you help others? Generosity, giving on all of its levels, giving dharma, giving your time, giving your support, giving material generosity, all of that is brought to perfection through the first bodhisattva level. It involves other people and learning what being totally given means. That's what the first bodhisattva level is about. So on the second bodhisattva level, the first paramita has been perfected. And the main task on that level, through interaction with other people, is to learn absolute purity of ethical conduct, right conduct. What you do, your own motivation behind it, the motivation behind the motivation, all of that stuff that's there as superficial baggage to be removed is being whatever's traces of unethical thought or temptation and so on is there, needs to go on that second level. That can only go because you've got tempting circumstances. You're a somebody, a somewhere, a teacher, a Dharma teacher. People are entrusting themselves to you. They're making offerings to you. They're sharing their minds, their hearts with you. It's only in the depths of that intimacy that some of the more subtle temptations to unethical conduct will come. I mean, before that, of course, we can be unethical as we are right here and now, but we're looking at becoming a perfect mind. So whatever tendencies there were to lust, to pride, to irritation, maybe you'll find some of your students are really irritating. And they don't get it. You've been telling them. And I think I've told you a story here, even in the last year, but it stuck in my mind. A Zen master, Soshu-san, from Ryutakaji Monastery, who was in Samile. And once he really roared at one of the people in the shrine room, who was very devoted to him. And he shouted at him. He said, 300 year, 300 year, you sit our same question, don't understand. We were all like, because we weren't expecting this. It was a very quiet session, and then at the end, there's a little question and answer thing. Obviously, they've got some karmic thing going. I don't think Soshu-san was irritated. He was making the point, trying to make a breakthrough. But what I'm trying to say is, it could be that sometimes things are very frustrating. Maybe you're a Dharma teacher. Monasteries are frustrating. Maybe what goes on in your religious organization is enough to tear your hair out because it's run by humans and humans are humans. And the monastery is like, what is it? Taisitupa calls it sometimes samsara light, like Coca-Cola light. You've got all the same, you've got jealousies and power games and territory and desire, and they're just all longing to get down to the local internet cafe and have a double latte or something like this, Whatever it is, whatever is tempting ethically has to go. And it's only when it's gone that you can get through to third bodhisattva level. Otherwise, that's what's holding you back from this breakthrough into a whole new level of being. And so on. So, in the second to seventh bodhisattva level, one is working mainly on the kleshas, the mind poisons, desire, aversion, ignorance, or the 5 if we have pride and jealousy, or add the 21 subsidiary ones and so on. All of that has to be worked on, and by the end of the 7th level, all gone. So to reach first bodhisattva level, the power of karma has to be gone. To reach the 7th bodhisattva level, the power of the cause of karma, klesha, has to be gone through our work, the wonderful systematic work of the 6 paramitas. And through that work, then our own skills become more and more so experienced. It's wonderful in life when we meet an experienced person. They really know what they're doing in whatever field. Beautiful to witness. So these bodhisattvas become so skilled through their mastery of the first 6 paramitas. And then with the 10 levels, actually we talk of 10 paramitas, so we have 4 more, 1 developed on each level. Well, that was verse... just a moment, I want to get my levels all very clear. So verse 70 was about all the first bodhisattva level, but all of them. So their 2nd to 7th levels is verse 71. Even though they've transcended everything worldly, they do not leave the world, acting within the world, but unblemished by worldly impurity. So there we get the famous example of the lotus, which grows in the mud. So this verse 72, to exemplify that, a lotus born of water, by water remains unblemished. Similarly, even though they are born in the world, by worldly beings, worldly circumstances, they are unblemished. So that's about these 2nd to 7th level bodhisattvas. Well, again, it would be helpful if you went off now for a little while and we spend a few weeks looking at lotuses growing in the mud. And that's amazing. A really filthy, muddy pool. So deep in that mud, the lotus bulb or whatever they grow from, and it makes a stem, and it comes up to the surface through all the dirty mud and the often dirty water. But when it comes out on the surface, it's immaculate. It's pure white or yellow. Everything so perfect that grew out of the mud. We're looking at the 2nd to 7th bodhisattva levels, where these bodhisattvas are manifest in the world. They're dealing with all the world's complications, corruptions, kleshas, karmas, but it cannot touch them. They remain as pristine, as beautiful as the lotus flower. But they are growing, you see, they are growing towards enlightenment through the levels, through interacting with the world. That is how their right conduct, their forbearance, their diligence, their meditation, and their wisdom is developed. That's the mud of worldly circumstances. They just become better and better at helping people. And the main thing that is being removed through the first 6 paramitas are the causes of karma, the kleshas. When we come now to the next 3 bodhisattva levels, 8th, 9th and 10th, karma's gone, klesha's gone. The main thing that's going, well, 2 main things, dualistic thought and the dualistic split of awareness that causes dualistic thought. So duality is going, pretty much gone, but the last traces are being worked off. And what are called first thoughts, first moments of your baggage, let's say. So anger, frustration. We've covered this before many times, but we can work on its development. But when the first moment of aversion comes out of nowhere, we can't go before the first moment because you don't know what's going to happen next in your mind. It just happens. So those first moments, how to get rid of them? First moment of desire, where something is desirable. So the first flash of desire can come in immediately, not interested. We can switch it off, we can transform it, we can work with an emotion, we can work with a thought chain once it's started. But the first moment, how do you work with that? There's only one way. It's called the Vajra-like Samadhi, where we remain totally absorbed in the true nature of mind. Again and again and again, whatever comes up, we bring it back to the true nature of mind. And in the end, things just disappear. They wear themselves out. They go. They stop coming up. So the 8th, 9th, and 10th levels is what we look at in the next verse. Verse 73, to accomplish their task, their brilliant intelligence is like a fire blazing incessantly. They are at all times profoundly immersed in meditative union with peace. Okay, so briefly, because there's a lot more behind this verse than we've got time for in this course. That's when we come to look in much more detail at the bodhisattva levels. But first 6 levels finished, and we've got to the 7th level finished. So all 6 paramitas have been perfected, and in particular, prajna paramita, the 6th one. So this is why it talks about the fire of their wisdom. Voidness wisdom is blazing. And the analogy here is fire and blazing fire. So it's like the difference between a fire of absolutely bone-dry wood and a fire of wood that's not quite so bone-dry. When the wood's not quite 100% dry, you have to look after a fire. You have to, you all know that, poke it, blow it, put a bit more something else on it to keep it going. When the wood is really, really dry. This year I treated myself. I got an open fire. I got some really dry hardwood. It's amazing. When I look back over all the years of puffing and panting and keeping, well, I remember in Scotland too, they say seasoned dried hardwood. Yeah, seasoned dried hardwood. You can believe it till you try and burn it. It's not so seasoned and not so dry. So this year, the stuff just burns all by itself. It's amazing. So by the time we've perfected the first 6 paramitas, then the wisdom, the skill is just working all by itself. It's an exponential development that now is all focused on the disappearance of duality and the dualistic split, and working on these first moments of thoughts and so on. So that's what it's telling us, the analogy of the fire. And so if you read the commentary in the text at this point, I think it tells you, we focus on the term Nyomjuk. Nyomjuk is Tibetan. In Sanskrit, it's samapati. And this is about, in our terms, although that's the only way we can approach it, isn't it, in our terms. In our terms, we can best understand what's being referred to here, through meditation, post-meditation. So samapatti means constant absorption, stable, constant absorption. That's samapatti. And so at our level, we have meditation. Maybe we didn't even get some samapatti yet, some stable samadhi, total of undistracted absorption, no distraction, just there, absorbed. Maybe we didn't even get that yet, but we have meditation, where we're, how can you say, at our best, taking our mind to its best. And then we have post-meditation, when we are exposed to life and people and circumstances and our karma. These are two very, very different things at the beginning. What happens to you on your cushion, what happens to you in life, and then gradually what we do on the cushion starts to come through. Makes us a different person in our life, and our life experience nourishes our bodhicitta on the cushion. So we're looking at these two dimensions, which as we evolve through the journey, don't become two anymore. We never really stop meditating while we're going through life. And when we're in meditation and dealing with our 35 elements, our consciousness, our perception, our thoughts and so on, duality, that's like a dream, like life is like a dream. The two get less and less different. So now when we're looking at here, 8th and 9th bodhisattva levels, then we're seeing there's barely any difference between being in Buddha mind and helping people on the very, very vast scale. It's unimaginable. We're talking about being very close to Buddha mind and helping hundreds of thousands of people at the same time. We can't imagine that, but it's what we're talking about. So it's saying to accomplish their task, it's really like a fire that's roaring and blazing, and it's just consuming more and more and more, consuming your own duality, whatever's left of it, and it's helping more and more. Your activity, your bodhisattva radiance is just spreading faster and faster and helping more and more beings. That's what we're looking at in that verse. And then in the next verse, we move on to the 10th bodhisattva level, which is really very special. Verse 74, due to previous impetus and being concept-free, no effort need be made to bring beings to maturity. So on the 10th level, we're seeing that everything that's been put in motion in the first 9 bodhisattva levels is now just happening spontaneously. The impetus, the momentum of however many cosmic eons you've spent in those bodhisattva levels, developing all the paramitas, is now working. It's a wonderful cosmic machinery that's working terrifically to help beings. No effort at all is made, it just happens. So that's through the power of the former impetus, plus the work on the 8th and the 9th bodhisattva levels has got rid of the dualistic split, the dualistic thinking. That makes the 10th level bodhisattva very special, and many bodhisattvas stay on that level for a long, long time to help many beings. They make promises on the earlier bodhisattva levels to kind of hang around on the 10th level for a long time, to be very, very useful, as only a 10th level bodhisattva can. So, verse 75, and 76, and 77, and 78 are about 10th level bodhisattvas. They know precisely the ways and the means to train anyone, and whichever teaching is appropriate, whichever physical form of manifestation is appropriate, whatever mode of conduct or action will be most appropriate to help this person, this being, that being. It's crystal clear and spontaneous and natural. If I can just stop with a personal memory, well, maybe I shouldn't, so it doesn't confuse things, but I can't help it, so excuse me. But walking around Samiling with Akon Rinpoche, he was often in his office. So when he was walking around Samiling, people would do what they call in English buttonhole him. Funny expression in English. To buttonhole means you're lying in wait to catch somebody when they're free. And so people were all of a sudden, I'd been walking around with him, talking about something. And then somebody pops up there, Rinpoche, can I just ask you something? So then I'm walking with him, I have to disappear. Sort of put on the invisible shield, I'm not listening, I'm not seeing, he's all yours. And then they ask a question, and then they go, they don't want to keep him too long. And then you're walking around the property, and then another one pops out of nowhere. And, excuse me, Rinpoche, yes. And then they ask him about something. Or sometimes in a sort of a half an hour walk around Samiling, you get 5, 6, 7 people buttonholing him like that. And to see the shifts in him, absolutely amazing. Can be so kind and fatherly and comforting and gentle with one person. And then they're gone. And probably the next person is already sort of half queuing up just 10 meters away. So they come. And then he could be tough, wrathful, give them a couple of words and send them off with a flea in their ear and something to think about. And then when they're gone, that's gone. It's like a mask that came on and was taken off instantly. And then somebody else comes along, different again. Nothing to do with him, totally to do with what they needed at that time, that day, in their own story. Very, very good experience for me to see. So we look at that now, sort of a millionfold. They know precisely the ways, the means to train anyone, whichever form they need to manifest, peaceful, wrathful, kind, instructive, whatever. Verse 76, in this way, those of unhindered intelligence excellently engage in benefiting beings as limitless as the sky, continually and spontaneously. So actually the number of beings a 10th level bodhisattva helps is incalculable. No way any number can get it. Endless. And from that point of view, a 10th level bodhisattva is as helpful to the world as a Buddha. They have the same intelligence, powers, spontaneous ability to help. There is no difference. No difference. So, but there's a slight difference. They don't have meditation and post-meditation as such, but there is a flicker of a difference of quality between total immersion in Buddha mind and the helping hundreds of thousands of beings. For us, for me, it's indescribable. There's a difference. which is, they use the terms meditation, post-meditation, meaning 100% absorption and like 99.99% absorption, but dealing with this person's case at the same time, if that makes any sense at all. So it says, the way in which these bodhisattvas act in the worlds to help beings during their post-meditation phase, or in that helping beings aspect, is the same as the Buddha's way of liberating beings. But then when we get to verse 78, it says, although this is true, the difference between these bodhisattvas and the Buddhas are like the difference between the earth and one speck of dust, and all of the earth that you can see. You know how many specks of dust make the earth you can see? Billions, trillions. The difference between one speck and the earth, or the difference between the water in an ox's hoof print and the water in an ocean. Just two examples of vast scale. So this is not the difference in compassionate help to other beings. That's the same. This is in the difference between the bodhisattva levels, where there is still just this tiniest fragment of a personal story, which means that your stream of consciousness is still an individual stream of consciousness up to the end of the 10th bodhisattva level, which makes a certain limitation, an internal limitation. And at the end of the 10th level bodhisattva, that goes. And it's the changeless Buddha mind that always was. The personal story has gone forever. Okay, that's all we'll say here. If you think about this a lot, things will come up in your mind and you're going to start asking, well, just a moment, then what does it mean to become Buddha? Because what do you become? Who becomes Buddha? There's nothing left to become. Once you start thinking about it, this is a real teaser, not just for us, for some of the greatest Buddhist minds ever. Quite what happens when you migrate from 10th level bodhisattva to Buddha is very, very, very interesting. So we're not going to look at that today. We just need to know that the internal scope when we become Buddha is like the difference between water in an ox's hoofprint and the water in an ocean. So with that, we've gone through now today the phase which is pure and impure, the 10 bodhisattva levels. We've seen a little bit of what we are working on internally in our own story, and how we are helping beings on the outside, and how those two are very, very, very interactive in different ways. Now we go on to changelessness, which is still this same topic, changeless Buddha nature when you're Buddha. Verse 79, page 142. Because it has inexhaustible qualities, its nature is not to alter. It is the refuge of beings because it has no limits in the future. Right to the very end, it is always non-dual because it's non-conceptual. It is also of indestructible character because it is non-compounded by nature. That verse, 79, is the key verse for this section. It's what introduces us to now what we are considering when we think of the changelessness of Tathagata in the final phase, which is when we are Buddha. Still the same, Tathagata Gaba, but now at the Buddha phase. That's the key verse. We better stop there, because then the other verses develop this. And it's very much, this section is about words, terms that we use like nirvana and Buddha and Tathagata and peace and so on. So we need to look into those, we need to give it the time that it takes. So I did hope I'd finish today, but I'm not going to rush this section, because then after this, we've got one more of our 10 topics, and then we've got the 9 examples. So let's stop there today. Next week is our monthly Tonglen training. So we meet in 2 weeks' time to carry on with our looking at changelessness. Just now we'll dedicate whatever was good and useful in our session together, and really, well, let's dedicate it so we do all of that, what we've been looking at. First bodhisattva level. Oh, wow. And then it just gets better and better and better. And that's your story, and it's my story. It's what in this life, on this planet, in this particular time in the history of everything, we are aspiring to, and our aspirations and our dedication right now would actually make this happen. It's too good. So let's do a wonderful dedication. May whatever virtue was created by this session contribute to the state of omniscience being attained. By the main enemy, our mind's defilements, being completely defeated. Through that, may each and every sentient being become free from the ocean of existence, which is troubled by its waves of rebirth, aging, sickness, and death. May this precious bodhicitta arise in those in whom it's not yet arisen. In those in whom it has arisen, may its development know no setbacks. May it increase ever more and more. Through this virtue, may we quickly achieve Mahamudra and establish every single sentient being in that same accomplishment. So, over to us.
Yeah, I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first of all, feedback actually. Personally, I'm finding this seems great, and I had apprehension to start with. I thought maybe be a bit like teaching about Buddha nature, a bit like a travel brochure to Shangri-La or something. And
yes.
It's miles away. I'm stuck in Dumfries, an overland journey to the Himalayas, many, many lifetimes and blah, blah, blah. But actually, I've still got to get to Carlisle. That's a few lifetimes to there. But actually, there's still plenty of instruction right the way across about how to get to the next steps. And it's really useful. So, carry on, please. Brilliant. Yeah. My question is, it's about Tara, actually. Tara's a 10th level bodhisattva, isn't she? And a Yidam deity, as far as I understand. And I'm just wondering why she doesn't seem to be portrayed in my Kaju refuge tree at all.
That can be 10th level bodhisattva.
I don't know if I've not got one here, Tara. But anyway, I mean, Tara's there. What we have in the refuge tree visualization is kind of a sample. When we take refuge, then we are taking refuge in all the bodhisattvas, all of the Buddhas, and we just imagine them in their specific places where we do visualize them, but then like in between all the other beings, what we actually feel we're in is an endless space. I mean, the refuge tree visualization is just a beginning. It's helping us to imagine a space where we are intimately connected with all of those bodhisattvas and Buddhas, and we're intimately connected with all other sentient beings. It's not, I don't know if that's English, but in French we say limitatif. It's not limiting. It's, on the contrary, it's just a beginning. So of course, Tara should be there. But in the Kagyu teachings, Tara comes up a lot. And in lots and lots of Vajrayana teachings.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Lisa. Yeah.
Ken, I want to ask about Buddha Amitabha's Pure Land then. Say, for example, after we die, and thinking about the 10 levels. So how does that kind of work then if after we die and then we go to Buddha Amitabha's Pure Land, do we then work through the whole 10 levels there? And then how does it work? Could you explain that for me, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, the answer to the first bit is, yeah, we work through the 10 levels. Let's put it in another way. We work through the liberation of our mind, as is portrayed in the 10th levels in a very kind of systematic, organized way. But whatever needs to go, goes. Whatever needs to be acquired is acquired. And it's not like a university or school syllabus where everybody has to go there and do this, and then after that you move on to the next one and the next one. It's not like that. It's a space of mind where there is nothing but you and purity, nothing but you and clear minds of all sorts. We call them Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and Taras. There is you and this amazing presence of goodness and purity in which you can work skillfully and unimpededly, because you're not being reborn. You're not in a body with birth, aging, sickness, and death. You don't have to learn to speak, learn a new language, grow up, and all that's finished. If we manage to make it to Dewa Chen, it's just you in contact with the purity of mind expressed through the purity of so many awakened minds. So then we work through whatever needs to be worked through. Amitabha's Pure Land itself is well, in the teachings, it's better I stick to the classical teachings that come with Amitabha's Pure Land, right? It says in those teachings, to attain most of the Pure Lands is exceedingly difficult, nigh impossible, for beings who have been born in samsara and who are approaching death, because it needs such a purity of mind attained in this lifetime that basically when you die, you are shedding this body, but your mind is staying in the Pure Land that you've cultivated while you're alive. This is normally what it means to be reborn in a Pure Land. If in this life we do whatever Pure Land it is, in this life we've got to a state of absorption that we're there all the time. We're in Chinresik's Pure Land, Dewa Chen, Sukhavati or something, in this life. So then when we die, it's just a question of leaving the body behind and the mind continues. That's like being reborn in a Pure Land is normally that. It goes along with the teachings on samapati, this word we had earlier on, absorption, the teachings on shamatha, is that you achieve it while you're alive, so that when you die, your mind carries on in that purity or absorption of mind, and you don't have a body. You don't need to get up and pee anymore. You don't need to sleep anymore because you're exhausted. You don't have a body. There is just your mind. So it says for ordinary beings, this is very, very difficult, nigh impossible. So what happened with the person who became the Bodhisattva, who became Buddha Amitabha, understanding how difficult that is for beings, Amitabha made, through the power of his own mind, a space of mind into which we can enter if we fulfill 4 conditions, called the 4 conditions for rebirth in Dewa Chen. And it is like a Pure Land, but basically we are held by Amitabha's mind, Amitabha's compassion. And because it's so much like being in a Pure Land, we can progress so quickly that then it is a Pure Land in itself. I've got a very funny kind of personal example from my old hippie days. So we're going back to 1970, and so the people I met on the road, some of them were hitchhiking. I was driving, so I was quite lucky in a way. But other people were hitchhiking. Or some of them had found a terrific way to get to India. They were delivering Mercedes cars. So Mercedes gave them a car and a petrol allowance, and they would deliver cars to Sri Lanka, which means you got to drive a Mercedes all the way to Sri Lanka. And they didn't, that was the deal. You worked out your own accommodation, or you slept in the back of the car or whatever. And because some of these were our hippie kind of people, they weren't supposed to take hitchhikers, right? But they did take hitchhikers, right? So people who were hitchhiking because they didn't have any money and who were happy to get a ride in anything, broken down old bus, lorry, as long as you got to the next place, all of a sudden you're sitting there in a brand new sort of air-conditioned Mercedes going on the next bit of your journey. You couldn't afford a Mercedes yourself. You couldn't even afford to rent a Mercedes yourself. But through somebody else's kindness, there you are, getting from Istanbul to wherever it is, your next stop. It's very similar. Through Bodhisattva Amitabha's compassion and prayers and all the work through the 10 Bodhisattva levels, he made a Pure Land so that if people connect with him, the power of connection, interdependence, through the 4 causes, then he would hold them in that space, of pure mind and blessing from all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, until they were there naturally themselves. And then there they can progress through. That's very brief. teachings on Amitabha and how to be reborn in Pure Land are terrific teachings. But that's how it works, roughly.
What were those 4 conditions to be reborn in the pure realm? That you said there were 4, but what are they?
Yeah, it's basically connecting. We need to have taken the bodhisattva vow and to be practicing as best we can the bodhisattva teachings. That motivation really needs to be there. We need the belief in Amitabha and in the Pure Land. That when it says belief, it means longing. It means, the way we can long for something when we're human? It means that we dream of being reborn. We long to be reborn in Amitabha's Pure Land. We read about it in the Amitabha Sutra, but actually you read more about it in the Amitabha Sutra. You get more details in there. And so there we've really again and again visualized what it means to be reborn there. And then we need to do the actual, so we need to actually do the prayer for rebirth, because that makes, how can you say, the direct connection. We pray again and again. And usually we do that when we dedicate whatever merit we've got. So you've got some, because you just made a bit of virtue, right? So that power, then we say, through this power, may I be reborn when I die. And then in the prayer, which is a very special prayer, if you read the words, each line is so full of meaning. Those meanings that we're expressing in the prayer are the fuel for the actual rebirth in Dewa Chen. And then the 4th condition is that we need the 2 accumulations. We need to have developed some wisdom of shunyata, and we need to have some goodness through our kind deeds to help other beings, and so on. So those 4 are needed. The more there are, the more it will happen. And what it needs to do, you see, those 4 program our mind, they imprint our mind, and it needs to be imprinted to the point that when we die, we don't go into the usual bardo cycle of experiences. That longing, those imprints, the power of our goodness, the power of our Dewa Chen prayers will bypass the usual bardo process. It's like when I went to in the time when the Karmapa was coming to Europe, for one of those occasions, somebody very kindly sponsors me as a VIP guest. So outside the venue, you've got this long, I think it was Paris, long queue of people queuing up to get in to see the Karmapa. And you just go through to the front of the queue and you show your pass and you go straight in and you get taken to a front seat. It's an incredible feeling of privilege. But it saves. It was raining outside, and the way the people in the queue kind of look at you because you've got the VIP badge. So that was due to somebody's kindness. Somebody sponsored me that. That's like Amitabha's wishes. And I went there. I didn't have the bardo of queuing in the rain and going through all the other procedures. So it needs to be, those 4 conditions aren't just formal on paper conditions. It means your mind has been changed. Your mind has been put in that place through your longing and all those 4 conditions, so that when death comes, you're just longing for it. You're grabbing it, And so because of that, and because of Amitabha's own promises, then we are received. How you're received, and that goes to there's more details. Either you get the whole deal, the 100% Dewa Chen deal, or you can be born but in a closed lotus if you're not quite so, like you say, your 4 conditions get you through the door, but you've not got the VIP pass. So then quite how you experience being in the Pure Land, receiving teachings, receiving instructions, actually experiencing other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, that varies.
And Mary's here in
Hi,
Japan.
Maurice.
Yeah, hi. It seems to me there's a lot of this in Japan and in China, the Western paradise, Amitabha, in terms of Buddhism in the temples, you know.
Yeah.
And maybe that was very popular as a prayer, yeah. It just made me think of that.
Yeah, when you see the spread of Buddhism from India,
yeah,
through Asia, and it's quite remarkable. It's the same with Christianity as well. It's actually in the hands of a very few people. Like in China, you see which Chinese masters went to India, and then what they brought back became Chinese Buddhism. And then part of that, like the Chan Buddhism, that became Zen, that went to Japan as Zen, and so on. And so it's just amazing. I don't know what you call it, sort of luck, coincidence, but out of all the Buddha's teaching, this guy came, he really connected with these teachings. He got good, perfect transmission of them, studied them and translated the sutras and went back. And then, often they went back, they reported to the emperor, and the emperor said, this is okay. Then that becomes the part
and then
of
it
Buddha's
flourished.
teaching.
Yeah, and then at the same time, the decline of Buddhism in India, like there's such a karma with the flourishing of Buddhism, and the Nalanda and the masters. It's very interesting, actually, the flow of it all. Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah. Mm.
They call it Pure Land Buddhism.
Yeah.
They have a temple.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Yale.
Hi. This teaching was really incredible for me. Thank you very, very much. Like the penny dropped about 2 things for me. I just wanted to maybe share it or. Yeah, it's very, very moving and emotional. So I'm sorry that I'm not very coherent on something. Anyway, first thing I understood is that the reason they say that you have a better chance of becoming enlightened when you're dead, then it is because the mind is less grasping to the realities of life. Like you said, you have to be worried about the mortgage and you have to be worried about this and that and the other. And when we are dead, we don't have this anymore. Mind is more clear and more calm. So we have a better chance to actually realize the emptiness and everything. So that was one thought. And the second thought about the kindness of the Guru, that they can manifest actually as something which is a wrong perception, but at first you so believe in that perception and it gives you so much benefit that they are ready even to manifest as the wrong view. I'll give an example. Like you at first, or from karmic connections or whatever, you wrongly believe that some lama is your root lama. And could have been more mistaken. And in my case, the Lama, the pure Lama, all the time used to give me kind of hints that maybe I'm wrong, but in a very expressed way. And at that time, of course, first I couldn't understand why they say so. And then now, when I heard this teaching, I understood that those times and places where I felt a big dissonance, because now I know what's the truth. So how come I felt, I'm in a sacred place or sacred mind or whatever, when it was all one big mistake? I don't want to use more, rough words. And now I understood that it was a manifestation of my Lama, my Guru, my real one. And they don't have ego. They don't care. So it made me very emotional. The extent of compassion they have, and that they'll do everything for you.
Yeah. And the fact that it's so long term. Lifetime after lifetime. And I suppose from their side, if you lose out on this one, never mind, we'll make it better. We can pick it up, we can fix it and sort it another time, but they're going to be there for you again and again and again.
Yeah. They never give up on you. That's what they say, and this is true.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that.
Thank you.
There's four kinds of lamas. Tell us about the 4 kinds of lamas.
Yeah, 5 if you include the South American ones. Well, it's one thing that's not easy for me is I think most people here are involved in Tibetan Buddhism one way or another, which is Vajrayana Buddhism, right? Here we're studying Buddha nature text, which is part of Mahayana Buddhism, classic Mahayana Buddhist theory. And although that is the basis for Vajrayana, this is not a Vajrayana teaching, right? So all the way through, we're looking at bodhisattvas and how they teach people. We're not looking at the teachings on gurus as we know them in Vajrayana, right? Guru is just an Indian word, actually means teacher. In schools, school children call their teachers Guruji. Guru, teacher just means teacher, one who teaches. So anybody who teaches, anything that teaches is guru in that sense. But the Vajrayana sense of guru is very, very special. Kamapa's giving teachings about it just now, been given very useful teachings on the Vajrayana understanding of a guru. So guru is whatever teaches us. Can be human, can be a human person. It can be scriptures. Sometimes scriptures become like beings. We were talking before the session started about trees and hugging trees and the presence of trees. Texts, which normally are just squiggles on paper to convey ideas, but in themselves they can be gurus. A text can teach you just as though Buddha was there talking to you. And you can get as much as you get from the Buddha from a text. And then whatever you call it, life phenomena, which means nature, things we come across all of a sudden can teach us all sorts of things, basically Dharma, but also teach us the most sacred things about the nature of our mind. But basic is anything that teaches us. It's anything that teaches us. So from our side, what's important is to open up an ability to learn. I mean, that's the main thing. Then anything and everything and everybody becomes your guru. And we see crazy stories from past masters who they're bowing down to inanimate objects, they're bowing down to dogs and all sorts of things because they're in a state of mind of just learning Dharma from every moment. And so that's the best. And then we get formal teachings too, teacher as Buddha, best. Teacher as Bodhisattva in the 10 levels, second best, but wonderful, terrific anyway. And then teachers who are not in the Bodhisattva levels, but they have qualities. And we can list 8 for 2 sets of qualities. And then just ordinary samsaric sentient beings, but who are more advanced on the Dharma path than us. And we get lots of teaching. I know you can get classifications, different types of guru, but the main thing is anything that teaches us Dharma. And the other way around, if we don't want to learn, you could have Buddha there right in front of you, and it would be just the same as having your local shopkeeper in front of you. You wouldn't know the difference.
Ken, my husband Paul has a very brief question for you. Is that okay?
Of course, yeah.
Speak loud.
Ken, it's not a question, it's an anecdote.
Right.
You remember the days back in Sonada and Kalu Rinpoche around 1969, 1970?
Mm-hmm.
And after a teaching, we would go out with Kalu Rinpoche and Bokor Toku and circumambulate the Gompa, and the thing that I wanted to relate would be that Kalu Rinpoche, the old Kalu Rinpoche would say, and it was very auspicious when the sky in the evening was pink. And he said, when you see the pink sky, then recite the Om Ami Dewa Hri mantra to open that portal. And so that was a reference. Now, every time, even in my aged years, if I see a pink sky, I will automatically respond with saying Om Ami Dewa Hri.
Mm. Very clever teaching, huh? Trigger like that. Yeah. Thank you. I never went over to Sonoda at that time. My best friend did. I stayed in Dharamsala and he went off for a couple of weeks to Sonoda because Kalu Rinpoche became his teacher. So he came back and told me about it, but I never actually went to Sonoda at that time.
Who came?
Mm-hmm.
There was a small coterie of aspiring youngsters. yeah, it was a special time.
Very, very. Okay, well, that's time. We're well over 12:30 now, so wish you all very well. We did our dedication, and on this course, we come back in 2 weeks' time, and I'll see a lot of you next week for Tonglen. Go well. Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
very much, Ken. Try now.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Ken. Everyone.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Goodbye, all. Have a good spring.